Hey team, how we doing? This is Coach DANA CAVALEA checking in with you today. So today I want to talk a little bit about the word pace, and it's something that I think a lot about, especially as it comes or it relates to achievement and moving yourself forward through life. And we all have different paces that we like to work at, obviously. And it's interesting. The more we push ourselves sometimes, the more we bury ourselves, and I'm definitely guilty of that, and I like to talk about it on the pod here just to make it public and let you know some of the things that I deal with. Maybe you're dealing with them too, and if you are, maybe I could share some of the solutions that I found to some of the things that I deal with you to help you move through your journey. And today is the day after the death of the evangelical preacher, if you will, Billy Graham, and a really interesting guy. Whether you're overly religious or not practicing, it's irrelevant. But what I found so interesting about this guy, as I've done some research on him and I continue to do more, kind of getting pulled in and more fascinated by what this guy stands for as I move forward. But here you have a guy that was a young baseball player that didn't make it, and he turned, towards God, and he turned towards, a higher power. And what he started to realize as he dug into the Word is that, it was his job, if you will. He was appointed to be a guy that went out there and got his message across and pushed a message, a positive message. And he inspired people and he motivated people. And it was almost as if he was being pulled and pushed at the same time to where he had to go. But it was all internal. He was being guided, if you will. And I thought about that because how many times in our life are we pushing ourselves to go places at rates of speed that really aren't even possible? And we hold ourselves accountable to something that may not even be achievable in terms of the pace that we're working at. So, I find, a lot of times when I feel out of balance or out of sync, it comes from unrealistic expectations. And not that the expectation themselves are unrealistic, but the issue comes when I put a timeline to that expectation. And when I look back at my life, everything I've ever really wanted, I've achieved. And none of them have been on the timeline that I wish it was on, And unfortunately, that's kind of what we have to go through. It seems that that's all a part of our journey and something that, we experience as we go through our life. And we can't get crazy here over these things because, at the same time, it's not really worth it, right? It's not fair to us to put that level of expectation, or that level of pace expectation into play. So really, I know it's a bit of a ramble, but identify with yourself where you're feeling most of your pressure as you go through your journey. I know, if there's a lot of very diverse crowd, if you will, that listens to this pod here, from businessmen and women to CEOs and executives to sports coaches and athletes. And just ask yourself, where do you get yourself out of rhythm, right? For the hitters and the baseball players, it's all about rhythm, and it's all about staying within yourself, because as soon as you get outside of yourself, that's when the trouble starts. So if you could identify those catalysts, if you will, or those things that get you out of balance, that's the start. That's where it all begins, identification. And what I bet you'll find is that there is not an alignment between what you want to have happen and what is actually happening. And at the root of it all is you're not satisfied with the pace of things. So therefore, you're not where you want to be, and because you're not where you want to be, you work even harder to push the pace. And by pushing the pace, as hard as possible, you end up burning yourself out. And it's kind of this vicious feedback loop and cycle that takes place. And it's actually kind of crazy that we feed into our own, I guess, poor habits, and we don't respect the process, and we don't respect the time. And there's also an element of, are we doing what we're supposed to do, right? And I think that's super important to understand as well. Sometimes things aren't moving at the pace we want, and they never will, because we're not actually supposed to be doing that, right? So going back to our original thought, if Billy Graham actually made it as a baseball player, the world would never have experienced his crusades and his life-changing or powerful message. So just something to think about. I know it's easy to get out of whack, and each day, it's important that you remind yourself of what you're trying to do and what you want to do, and most importantly, what your vision and what your mission are. And what you'll realize is that even small contributions and small efforts, and I call it chopping the tree, right? If you take the axe, to the tree long enough, it'll eventually fall. Even if you get up today and you just take a little bit off, you may knock some bark off, not actually even get into the base of the tree or the trunk. You at least made progress and moving forward. So those are all things to think about as you are experiencing the good and the bad that goes with the game of life, if you will. But always focus on moving forward. Accept pace sometimes. And one of my clients always says, Dana, you know what? As much as you want to eat, digestion is even more important. And sometimes you have to digest for a long time. And some of the great businessmen of our time, sometimes they strike every 6 to 10 years. It's not like they're up every day banging it out and trying to do something huge every single day, because they're smart enough to realize it just doesn't work that way. So pace is something you got to really, really think about. And everybody has a different pace. And that's what drives me crazy sometimes, when you hear these guys that are like, hustle, hustle, hustle. And if you were to do what that guy does, you may burn out in a week. But if you take that slow and steady approach, and again, chop, 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 you'll get where you have to go. I mean, what good is it if that guy's working at a torrid pace, he gets where he wants to go and drops dead of a heart attack? What good is that? Did he enjoy his journey? No. Maybe he did. But did he enjoy the achievement? No, because he wasn't there to see it. Or his health was so compromised that he had to then go focus on his health. And, as I get older and I move through my process, the one thing I'm learning to share and really work on each day is this theory of just taking that true one day at a time and saying, what are my objectives for the day? And maybe there are 3 or 4 things. And when you achieve those 3 or 4 things for the day, you're done. Don't say, well, now I have more time to do more, because your plate will always remain full. And, just eat your food and then put the dish away and you're done for the day. And if you can do that each day and achieve those 3 to 4 objectives a day, over the course of the week, you achieve 20 objectives, or 15 to 20 objectives. Multiply that, times a good 48 weeks, taking 4 weeks of vacation. And you will have to realize it's not just about the time on the job. It's actually about what you do. And then when you can take a deeper look, you can say, what are the movers? Like, what are the things that I actually need to do to move the needle forward? It's like having a business that doesn't bring in any revenue, and you have great systems, you have great processes, you have a great brand that looks great, but you don't make any money because you don't do any selling. You're so stuck on the other things that you forgot about the thing that actually generates the revenue to keep that thing going and growing. Same is true for us as people. If we don't value our training and value our exercise and get that in every day, eventually when we achieve what we want to achieve, if we achieve it, we won't be healthy enough to enjoy it. So pace yourself. Think about pace. My grandmother lived till just shy of 100, and she always used to say, Dana, patience is a virtue. And I never forgot that, and I never really understood it. When she told me, I was probably about 18 years old and, ready to run through a brick wall. And I'd probably keep trying, but what I realize is it is true. Patience is a virtue. So think about pace. Think about where you get ahead of yourself and where you don't prioritize actually taking care of yourself, and you put the goals ahead of everything, which sometimes gets us in some big trouble. So just wanted to have a little bit of a semi-late night conversation. At least that's what I'm recording. I'm sure you guys are listening at all different times, but I hope you enjoy. Anything that you want to share, you can reach me at dana@danacavalia.com. I love communicating with you guys. I love the conversation. Anything that I could help you with, help you navigate, coach you. That's really what I'm about, and that's what I love to do. So I'm actually spending most of my time now working on a book, and it's called Becoming a Champion. And I wanted to share the lessons that I learned from some of the great businessmen and incredible athletes and just incredible people that I've had to work with. So look for that coming out this spring, and I'll keep you updated. But writing a book will definitely test your patience, and patience is definitely a virtue. So pace yourself. Remember, if you're going to eat, make sure you digest. This is Coach Dana Cavalia. I'll see you guys soon. Thanks for listening. If you like it, share it. Give me a thumbs up. And I hope you guys enjoy. Take care. Bye-bye.